It's been a while since I posted an update on the forklift, but we're still moving along. Uh, Obviously, getting dusty sitting here, but we have been making progress. And the main reason for the delay has been what I've been working on. It's just time consuming. Still got a little bit left to do on the hoist, and our give you some updates on other stuff. So stick around and see what kind of fun we've been having. Okay, here's a good before and after on propane tanks. Um, I got both of these tanks with the forklift when I purchased it. They both look like this. And I have got this one ready to go to my propane guy. He's going to replace the pop-off valve and the gasket in the meter and then refill it for me. So you may ask how I did that. Well, first of all, I there's just a little bit left in this one, and I hooked the hose up to it, opened it up outside, and let it drain. This one still has about half a tank in it, so I'm going to go ahead and when we get ready, we're going to go ahead and hook this tank up, run the rest of it out, and then I strip and paint it like I did this. How did I strip it? Well, for the most part, I used my Eastwood SCT with a very coarse drum from Harbor Freight, and that pretty much stripped everything off. What I couldn't get to, I just used a wire wheel and a drill, like in here, and then used a little bit of sandpaper and steel wool. Then I used some Rustoleum. Rustoleum's got a automotive primer paint, comes in a tall can. I use that to primer it, and then I use some Rustoleum darker gray, the paint on the outside. The only problem I ran into, it was a little cold when I painted it, but that wasn't the issue. I shook it up a little bit, and when I started to paint it, it started shooting out little blobs, and I should have just stopped because I put two coats on it, didn't like the finish on it, so I found out after I shook it up a lot more, then it started spraying normal, and so after the second coat dried, you can still see the texture on it. I didn't really like that texture up there. After I got done with that, I took some 220 grit sandpaper and sanded the outside down and did a final coat on it. I'm okay with how it looks now. I'm hoping when I do that one, I don't, the finish is a little bit better. But I went with the darker gray because I went out on Clark's site and looked at a few of them. And it seems like the tanks they're using are darker gray like that instead of a lighter gray or silver. So I'll take this in probably sometime this week and have the propane guy do that and refill it. And then, like I said, once this is drained, I'll do this one too. So there's one more little tidbit. Okay, we got most of the parts of the mast hot tanked, most of the paint, that industrial yellow paint off, so now it's waiting for me to get out here and media blast and powder coat and or repaint it. So that's going to take a little bit of time. These, I need to figure out how I'm going to degrease them and strip them. It's that time of the year again. Of course, just like everybody else, we went through our cold snap where it was below zero. It's probably maybe 16 degrees in here. So I got to figure out how I'm going to, like I say, degrease that and get it repainted and all that kind of fun stuff. I did get the steering wheel off the steering shaft. The case, or the, for lack of a better term, the case is in the hot tank right now. That's going to take overnight to warm up because when I came out when I came out this afternoon to restart it up, it was frozen over on the top. So that'll take 24 hours to warm up to really actually do anything. I have gotten these, put them in the hot tank. You can see most of the yellow paint has come off. Um, this one over here, I've started to disassemble. Um, you can see there's the two small wheels that go in here. And if you notice on this one, there's a screw head on it. At first I thought they replaced it with some kind of screw, but on further examination, I think that's the original pins, but what they did is somebody, I don't think that's original, but they kind of drilled it out and tapped in a screw there so that they could turn that pin to line it up with the cotter pins. So that's kind of interesting. Now, the other thing is I've got the two larger wheels off here. And if you notice, one of them, the shaft that it goes on, is loose. And if you look at here, you see that they tried to booger weld that back in, and it did not hold. So I'm going to have to redo that. The other thing I notice on it is the way that grease zerk works. There should be a hole here that lines up so that it comes out, and you can grease the roller bearing in it. So I'm going to have to, and also the facing there, the facing there is broke. I don't know, boogered up. So I'm going to have to weld that up and grind it down and redo that. So uh, what I'll do is I will go ahead and finish taking this one out. For sure, throw those bearings into the parts washing tank, and maybe that, and then I will uh, media blast that. I think I'm going to leave these in for now until I get done with the media blasting, and then I'll take those out to try to keep grit and grime from getting in there. I don't know how successful I'll be, but we'll do that. Then we also have this that I'm going to have to take the shaft out, and they look okay. I think they just need cleaned up, and obviously that will all get media blasted also. So it's a continuing process. So on the lift brackets here, I've got it all media blasted, getting ready to powder coat it. Now, on the rollers, I had one roller here that they must have tried to replace. They didn't replace it using the roller bearings. They found a different roller that just had a bushing in it instead of the roller bearing. And they should be like this. I'm trying to find one of those. And then the shaft that goes on has come out of there. They tried booger welding it. Then they also screwed this. This got screwed up. So I'm going to attempt to weld this up, grind it off, and then re-weld the shaft in. And the problem I have there is I'm going to have to get it straight. I'm going to have to make sure that grease hole fits up right there. It fits correctly in there. It almost feels like, yep, they did not get it lined up correctly when they welded it back in there. So I'm going to have to attempt to do that correctly. I may end up, looks like I may end up having to grind some of that out so it's correct and I can get it straight. So wish me luck here. All right, there you go. A bit of light on that. I drilled that out with a step drill a little bit so I could get more meat to weld to. And it is, try to make sure it was as straight as I could on there. Or, 90 degrees. So it is ready to go into the oven to outgas, and then we're powder coat it. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I forgot my earbuds and my other jacket, but we are making progress. I got the steering column back in, and the, it's not tie rod, I can't remember what that's called. I'd have to go look it up. Anyway, we got it all in, got the bracket in, got the gauge cluster. It's in there. I'll show you when I get to the wiring part, but I'd already rewired the cluster 4 years ago and redid the gauge, cleaned up the gauges and redid those. And here's a good picture of it. Redid those 4 years ago. This button here will be wired into this, and you use that to give it a shot of propane before startup. Because these are designed, if I get this right, these are designed that if it doesn't, this will shut off if it doesn't detect any oil pressure. So to get it started, you got to give it a shot of propane. Anyway, that's what that is. Here's the horn button. That's the way it came when I went ahead and 3D printed this. Apparently, it may have come with a horn button up here. I'm not sure, but this is how it was wired in when I got it. This is just a blank. This is where the actual gas fuel gauge was. When they came out of the factory, if you order propane, they were, of course, made to run on gas, and they would have had a gas tank in here. When they converted it over to propane, they left the fuel gauge in. I took that out for whatever reason. Okay, steering column. I took this completely apart and then media blasted it. 3D printed this right here because couldn't find anything like that. And I think this will work out real well. There's a bearing up here. Oops, bearing up here because you have that shaft that comes up. I didn't replace that. I just greased it up. Down here,
there's a gasket here and there's a gasket there. I laser cut those and replace those. Then there is a, let me see if I can get down there. Oh, on this side, there's a seal in here that I was able to find a replacement for. So that's all taken care of, and it's all bolted up. Of course, when I was reassembling it, I marred the fresh paint up a little bit. I'll touch that up when I get all done with it. And I had 3D printed a ball up here, original steering wheel. When I was trying to remove the steering wheel from here, there's a rim up here that I was trying to like pound on the shaft a little bit, and I broke that. So when I printed this, I had it go over what was left of that. So tire, or this link here, this link bar, and again, I don't remember what their proper name of it is. It's an old style. I remember when I redid my International 56 S100, it had the same type of ends on it, and basically what they have is they've got a pressure cup on each end of it that presses against it, and then you have a not a nut, but you know, that screws in on the inner side and presses those pressure cups over the ball that's on the pitman arm, and then back here, and you probably can't see it, back there on the steering gear down there, you can see the end of it there. Well, I had bought a new set of those thinking for like an older car, thinking that would work fine. When I went to reassemble it, they were too big around. So the pressure cups and the nut or whatever. So I had the old ones except for one pressure cup. Now the divot that goes around the ball on the pitman arm or the steering arm back there was the same size. It's just that the cup was bigger around. So what I ended up doing is on the new set that I had, I went over to the grinder and just ground it down evenly, put it in and so that it slide in there. Seems to work fine. I thought there would probably be some kind of cover that would go over that to keep dirt out of the grease and stuff, but in looking in the manual there wasn't. That kit came with one, but the problem is it would have interfered with the grease zerks. You know. Okay, now that thumper shut itself off. Anyway, if I would have tried to use that, the grease zerks would have interfered with that. So I just decided to not try to attempt to use those. Now, if I turn this a little bit, you can see it does turn. I'm not going to turn it full because I don't want to screw up that mat that it's sitting on right there, but it does turn. And we now have steerage. So that's one of the next steps, major accomplishments. I did kind of have to, wasn't real sure why, but I had to bend the shifter there a little bit so it didn't hit that. So I don't know if I'm off a little bit, but it works. We're going to take it. So still working on the mast. Right now I've got something in the powder coating oven over there, outgassing so that I can powder coat that. What I can get in the oven I will powder coat, but so like I've got the opposite side of that in there, and then I've got to strip and powder coat these three parts and those parts down there yet. and then finish stripping that and the cylinder, and then got got the stops there I got to do yet, and then I've got to do this one yet. I was able to get these out and that outside. We had some untypically warm weather in February here. I was able to take them out, spray them with the degreaser, the purple skin eater, and then power wash these off, both that and this. So now it's just a matter of actually stripping it. This, I'm probably going to use some chemical stripper on this area, and then I don't have it here. I took it into town because I got to work on it. I got one of those little spot sand blasters that I bought years ago and used once and never used again. I think what I'll do is, or get as much of it off with a chemical stripper and the Eastwood Contour SCP, and then I'll take it up to the garage door, open the garage door, and we're test out, in these areas and stuff, these areas like this, we're test out that spot sandblaster and see if that works on it. So really, oh, I know. Also I was able, let me see where it's at. I don't have it sitting here, but these are the little thrust bearings. And when I took them apart, these three were fine. This one, you can see the remnants of the roller bearing that was in there. Well, the inside part of it was cracked and it just came apart. I tried finding roller bearing or the whole thing, couldn't find that. But what I did find is I went to McMaster-Carr and I was able to actually get the needle roller bearing, I guess it's more of a roller bearing, for it and press it back in. And anyway, so kind of expensive with shipping just for that bearing and this inner sleeve. It was like $83. So I am trying to find another set of, at least another set of those. What do I want to say? Clark thinks they might have one, and anyway, hopefully I can get my hands on that, and then I can get this all back together. The other thing I did is I cleaned up the chains, had them, first I degreased them, power washed them, and then let them soak in Rust 911 for a week. Got them out, they look perfect, laid them in this box. Last weekend, got in a hurry, left, came back, and I already got surface rust on them, so I sprayed them with WD-40 for right now to keep them from rusting any further. I've got actual chain lubricant that I will apply to that when I go to put it back together.
Okay, here's a good before and after on propane tanks. Um, I got both of these tanks with the forklift when I purchased it. They both look like this. And I have got this one ready to go to my propane guy. He's going to replace the pop-off valve and the gasket in the meter and then refill it for me. So you may ask how I did that. Well, first of all, there's just a little bit left in this one, and I hooked the hose up to it, opened it up outside, and let it drain. This one still has about half a tank in it, so I'm going to go ahead and when we get ready, we're going to go ahead and hook this tank up run the rest of it out, and then I strip and paint it like I did this. How did I strip it? Well, for the most part, I used my Eastwood SCT with a very coarse drum from Harbor Freight, and that pretty much stripped everything off. What I couldn't get to, I just used a wire wheel and a drill, like in here, and then used a little bit of sandpaper and steel wool. Then I used some Rustoleum. Rustoleum's got a automotive primer paint, comes in a tall can. I use that to primer it, and then I use some Rustoleum darker gray, the paint on the outside. The only problem I ran into, it was a little cold when I painted it, but that wasn't the issue. I shook it up a little bit, and when I started to paint it, it started shooting out little blobs, and I should have just stopped because I put 2 coats on it, didn't like the finish on it, so I found out after I shook it up a lot more, then it started spraying normal, and so after the second coat dried, you can still see the texture on it. I didn't really like that texture up there. After I got done with that, I took some 220 grit sandpaper and sanded the outside down and did a final coat on it. I'm okay with how it looks now. I'm hoping when I do that one, I don't, the finish is a little bit better. But I went with the darker gray because I went out on Clark's site and looked at a few of them. And it seems like the tanks they're using are darker gray like that instead of a lighter gray or silver. So I'll take this in probably sometime this week and have the propane guy do that and refill it. And then, like I said, once this is drained, I'll do this one too. So there's one more little tidbit. Well, we've got some additional progress here. Obviously, this is the old seat that has seen a little bit of wear. So what I did is I took it over to the Stitch in Kearney, Nebraska. Great place. I'd highly recommend them. They specialize in automotive and boat seats, and also they do some forklift seats. I think these turned out really good. The old seat had piping in here. Cody suggested that we don't use the piping because it tears out more, so he did this. And I think they turned out really good at a really reasonable price. So that's all ready to, I painted, cleaned up the frame and painted it. And we've got something to sit on. Slowly but surely, we've been getting the pieces to the hoist cleaned up and painted. We've got a few left to do, but we've got the majority of them done. I should be getting the rails done, or the sides done. I got one done. The other one's being painted, and then I've got to do the inner one. Okay, I'm putting the rollers back on these brackets. This is a thrust washer that goes here. It's hopefully you can see it on there. It's grooved quite a bit. I was able to get a similar thickness from McMaster-Carr. However, this had approximately 1.125" hole bored in it, and this only had 1 inch. So I took them to my friend Gary, and he milled those down, and look at that, they fit perfectly. Now, the rollers go on like that, and then there's another thrust washer that goes on here. I went out, and those thrust washers were bent like this. Hopefully you can see that. I went out to Menards, believe it or not, and they had something that it was actually listed as some kind of thrust washer. So hopefully between the thickness of that and this, we're going to be okay. They are held on by an external um, snap ring. Sorry for getting in the way there. We're going to, hopefully the snap ring will fit. Actually, I need to straighten those out a little bit. I already straightened this one out. Probably should just replace them, but okay, I know I'm blocking the view here. All right. So there they go. Okay. So I'll go ahead. Obviously, this one I had on. I took it back off to replace the thrust washer. Originally, I was just going to reuse the old ones, but the more I thought about it, the more that didn't sit well with me. So um, I'll go ahead and go through and do all those, and then I've already put these in here. I'll put those in on this one back here, put the new Zerks in. But I have a pretty well functioning rollers on here again. This is the one that I had to weld the shaft back in. It was broken loose or whatever. So big thing on that, I had to make sure that I lined my grease hole up so that when you grease it here, it can come out there. So I'm going to go ahead and finish doing this one, greasing it up, or do this. Let me see. If I remember right, I got to put these on first before I put these on so I can reach it. So I'll go ahead and finish this one up, and then we'll do this. Okay, got this one on, or explain a little bit of difficulty I had on that. So now it's time to put side rollers on before I put the main rollers on here. Big thing on this is there's a hole up here, that goes to the outside, and then those go in there. Seems like I got a little bit too much powder coating in there on that one. All right, we'll start with this one and work our way back. Those slide in there, and then this hole on the top needs to line up with Let me see here. There's a grease circuit that goes in here, and then it has to line up somewhere here. Okay, that grease comes out this way. So what we need to do, in other words, there's a hole right in there. That pin needs to line up, uh, which you can line up with the pin. You can use the bottom hole to line up that pin. So that pin needs to go approximately, and of course, right away, I try to put it in upside down. Okay. And I did clean out as much of the grease, old grease in these pins as I could. Okay. So we got that in there. And I put the pins in this way, the cotter pins in this way. Okay, got this one on, and the roller bearing here, I haven't greased them up yet. But when I went to put this one on, which this was the one that was kind of tight in here, I ended up breaking the damn roller bearing. So now I've got to go back and order one from McMaster-Carr. I guess it's not a big deal other than it's kind of expensive. So we'll have to wait to finish those up. I think that is about it for this episode. I got to continue cleaning up the mast and the main hydraulic cylinder and getting those painted and put back together. And then I have to still do the wiring harness, and I still have to put the clean the counterweight up and put it on. So we are making progress. Certain things have slowed us up a little bit. Um, but I'm still hoping, I was hoping to have it done by March. Looks like it'll be later in April, early May. So till next time, this is Harpum's Restorations. Get out in the shop and do something, okay?